I never imagined that refusing to share my Wi-Fi would end with a police car parked in front of my house, half the neighborhood watching from their porches, and the HOA president standing on her own lawn, red-faced and unraveling in real time. I didn't think a password I paid for every month would turn into a 911 call, an official warning, and the collapse of someone who thought she ran our entire street. But that's exactly where this story ends. Even though it started with something so stupid, so small, it still amazes me how fast it spiraled. It was a normal evening, the kind you don't remember the next day. Dinner dishes in the sink, TV murmuring in the background, my phone finally silent after a long workday. I just sat down when the doorbell rang. Not once, not politely. 3 sharp presses in a row, like whoever was outside was already annoyed I hadn't answered fast enough. I remember sighing, standing up and thinking it was probably a delivery at the wrong house. When I opened the door, Madison was standing there, 16 years old, phone clutched in her hand like it was oxygen. She didn't say hello, didn't ask how I was, didn't even pretend to be polite. "I need your Wi-Fi password," she said. That was it. That was her opener. For a second, I honestly thought I misheard her. I blinked, looked behind her like maybe there was a punchline waiting in the driveway. Nothing. Just Madison staring at me like I'd already disappointed her. My mom grounded me from mobile data. She continued, rolling her eyes. "My TikTok is stuck uploading. I have followers waiting. You need to give me your internet." The way she said it, not asked, not suggested, told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't a request. This was an expectation, a demand. I stood there, still holding the door, trying to process how we'd reached a point in society where a teenager thought she could knock on a neighbor's door and claim their private internet like it was a public drinking fountain. "Madison," I said carefully, already feeling that familiar HOA-related headache forming behind my eyes. "I'm not giving you my Wi-Fi password." Her face changed instantly. That smug, practiced expression I'd seen so many times on her mother at HOA meetings twisted into a scowl. "Are you serious right now?" she snapped. "It's just the internet. It's not like it costs you extra." I almost laughed. Almost. "It's a private connection," I said. "One I pay for. You'll need to work this out with your parents." Her eyes narrowed, sharp and calculating in a way that felt way too rehearsed for someone her age. "This is ridiculous," she said. "I can literally see your network from my room. It has full bars. I'll only use it for a minute." "No," I repeated, calm, firm, final. She stared at me like I'd just told her gravity was optional. Then her mouth curled into a smile that made my stomach drop. "Fine," she said. "I'll call the cops on you for being unreasonable." She spun around, stomped across my lawn, and shouted over her shoulder, "You're going to get arrested for this." I watched her march back toward that oversized colonial across the street, the one with the perfectly trimmed hedges, the HOA-approved shutters, and the woman who treated our neighborhood like her personal kingdom. Karen, her mother, HOA president for 3 straight years. If you've ever lived under an HOA, you know the type. She didn't enforce rules, she issued decrees. Landscaping violations. Trash cans out 5 minutes too long. Holiday decorations not in keeping with community standards. She loved paperwork, loved authority, loved reminding everyone that she was in charge. And Madison was her apprentice, raised on entitlement, trained by example, watching her mother snap her fingers at landscapers, delivery drivers, even city workers like they were hired help in Karen's personal reality show. At first I told myself it was over. Teenager throws tantrum, goes home, finds Wi-Fi somewhere else. End of story. I was wrong. Less than 20 minutes later, I checked my mailbox. Inside was an HOA violation notice. Official letterhead. Karen's name stamped across the top like a royal seal. The charge: failure to demonstrate community spirit and refusal to provide reasonable neighbor assistance. I stared at the paper, rereading it slowly, my disbelief turning into something heavier. Anger, then confusion, then that creeping sense that this wasn't just a misunderstanding, it was a power play. By the afternoon, another notice arrived. This one accused me of creating neighborhood discord and violating the spirit of cooperative living. By evening, there was a third. This one mentioned a potential hearing, possible legal action. consequences if I continued to withhold services from fellow residents. Services. Somehow, in less than a day, Karen had reclassified my personal Wi-Fi into a shared community resource, like a pool, or a sidewalk, or a mailbox. I sat at my kitchen table that night with those letters spread out in front of me, my dinner untouched, my head buzzing. I'd dealt with Karen's nonsense before, sure, but this was different. This wasn't about grass height or paint color. This was about control. And for the first time, I hesitated. I thought about how exhausting HOA battles could get, how they drained time, energy, sanity. I asked myself if this was worth it. If maybe I should just give in, give the kid the password and make it all go away. That thought scared me more than the letters, because once you give someone like Karen an inch, she doesn't stop. She takes notes. She takes advantage. She remembers who bowed. The next morning, Madison was back. This time, she didn't knock. She rang the bell and immediately started talking through the door like she already owned the place. I talked to my mom, she said when I opened it. She agrees you should share your Wi-Fi. It's basically a community service. Everyone deserves internet access. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the script behind her eyes. These weren't her words. They were Karen's, filtered through teenage arrogance. Your mom doesn't get to decide how I use my internet, I said. You're being selfish. Madison snapped, her voice climbing into that high-pitched tone that could shatter glass. I have important content to post. You're hoarding bandwidth like some kind of internet miser. I told her no, again. She crossed her arms, chin raised. This is discrimination. You can't deny a resident their rights. I raised an eyebrow. What rights? The right to internet access, she said confidently. It's a basic human need. Before I could even respond to that creative interpretation of constitutional law, she pulled out her phone and started typing furiously. Later that morning, another HOA letter arrived. By then, I wasn't just annoyed. I was tired. Tired of defending something that should have been obvious. Tired of feeling like the villain for protecting what was mine. For a brief moment, sitting there alone in my living room, I almost convinced myself I was wrong. That maybe I was being stubborn. That maybe it would be easier to just comply. That was the moment Karen was counting on. Then Madison showed up one last time. She didn't argue. She didn't threaten. She held her phone up and said, "Last chance. Give me the password or I'm calling 911. I laughed, a short, disbelieving sound that slipped out before I could stop it. You're going to call emergency services over Wi-Fi, I asked. You're withholding public utilities, she replied, repeating it like she'd memorized the phrase. That's illegal. Before I could say another word, she pressed the call button. I stood there as she spoke to the dispatcher, my disbelief turning into something almost surreal. My neighbor is withholding public utilities, she said. He won't give me his Wi-Fi password. There was a pause. Even through the phone, I could feel it. Is this a life-threatening emergency? The dispatcher asked. Well, no, Madison admitted. But I need internet access for my social media. The dispatcher's patience thinned audibly. Private Wi-Fi networks are not public utilities. An officer will be sent to speak with you about appropriate use of emergency services. Madison's confidence cracked. 15 minutes later, a patrol car pulled up in front of my house. Officer Rodriguez stepped out, already looking like this call had ruined his day. Madison rushed toward him, breathless. Officer, he's refusing to share his internet with the community. Rodriguez looked at her, then at me, then back at her. You called 911 because your neighbor won't give you his Wi-Fi password. When Karen stormed across the street, HOA badge pinned proudly to her blazer, I knew she'd made a mistake. She tried to take control, tried to assert authority, tried to tell a police officer how things worked in her neighborhood. Rodriguez shut it down calmly, professionally, and publicly. Wi-Fi is private property. HOA authority has limits. False reports are serious. Neighbors gathered. Phones came out. Karen's voice grew shrill. Madison shrank. By the time the officer finished documenting the incident, Karen's power was already gone. She just didn't know it yet. 3 days later, the HOA board voted unanimously to remove her as president. I didn't celebrate. I didn't gloat. I just changed my Wi-Fi name and closed my door knowing one simple truth had finally been enforced. Power only lasts as long as people are afraid to say no.